Good evening, everybody. I hope you're all well. Hope some of you can join me tonight. Do say hi if you're here. And thank you for being part of my group. Really appreciate it. I hope you're finding some useful information that I'm posting in here. So tonight's Facebook Live, I've chosen the topic of organic because we're in the month of Organic September here in the UK. And this week in particular is all about health and well-being and beauty and well-being. So this particular week is focused around that. And of course, as a nutritional therapist and thinking about healthy eating and healthy food, I thought this was a perfect time to bring up this topic again. I have spoken about it before, so do bear with me if some of this is something I might have said before, but I'm sure you'll all get new information from what I'm going to talk about tonight. So organic food, is it worth it? When should we do it? You know, it's more expensive, or is it a lot more expensive? You're trying to feed a family of 4 or more, so where should you spend your money wisely, and is it worth it at all? I just looked at some of the couple of statistics here currently in the UK, and interestingly, through lockdown, I guess when people were really concerned about their health, the increase in food sales for organic overtook the increase in sales for other non-organic food items. I think food intake went up through COVID. I suppose people were buying food in supermarkets and not eating out could be one reason. But the increase through lockdown in organic food during that period of time compared to, I think, the previous year, sales went up by 18%. And I think in a 12-month window, organic sales have gone up 6%. And I think it tends to rise year on year. And the market in the UK is worth £2.6 billion. So it is a big market. I can't give you the figure comparing it to the whole of the UK food market. I'm sure it's still an absolute minuscule amount compared to what we spend on food elsewhere. And the things that particularly went up in increase were bananas, chicken, eggs and wine, interestingly. I think wine sales might have gone up for everybody during that time. So Soil Association are the ones in the UK who accredit and certify food and beauty items as well as having organic status. So there's some very, very strict regulations around what can be marketed as organic, and farmers have to go through huge hurdles and leaps and leaving their soil I can't think of the word, but untouched for a long period of time before they can start growing organic crops. They've got to let it settle so there's no chemicals left in that soil when they start to grow organic crops in it. So it's a huge investment for farmers. So that's sort of understandable why, certainly maybe initially, but over time really, that organic food is going to cost you more. But is this extra cost worth it? And this is what we're going to come back to. The first thing I would always consider when I'm looking at organic food or not organic food is the level of chemicals that have been used to grow that food. So chemicals, I'm thinking more about crops. You know, sometimes you can be driving along the road and you may pass fields and you'll see the farmer out in the fields and they are spraying, and I see this abroad as well, they are spraying, they've got great big long wings out on the side from the whatever the tractor's pulling, and it's spraying huge amount of chemicals over their crops. They spray herbicides and there's pesticides and fungicides and fertilizers, chemicals. It's all chemical based if it's in a non-organic setting, or likely to be mostly chemical based. Now, does that matter? For me personally, I'd say yes. The least amount of chemical burden I can put on my body, the better. At the end of the day, everything that we've eaten or drunk has to go via the liver, and the liver is our organ for many reasons, but it's a major organ for detoxification. So it's doing this day in and day out, but I want to limit the number of chemicals it's going to have to deal with. Why do I want to overburden my liver? Some people might say, well, that's what the liver does. Yes, that is what it does, but I want to limit the number of chemicals, the amount of toxicity that's going into my body. And I'll come back to how I decide which fruit and veg I may decide to eat that's organic, and those that I don't worry about whether they're organic or not. So you've got the chemical burden. That's one factor that's very, very important to me when I think about choosing organic or not. The second thing is to do with the nutritional status of organic food. Now, just putting aside organic for one moment, throughout my training, I was taught that our soils have become depleted. We do so much intensive farming these days that actually our soils have become really, really depleted in very important minerals. So in terms of, can we get all our nutritional status from the foods that we're eating? Do we need to supplement with supplements like multivitamins and minerals? Then I think the answer tends to be probably yes, depending on what you're eating and how careful you are in choosing what you're eating. For example, we know from government information from the 1930s to the 1980s, the calcium content in vegetables declined by 46%, and magnesium by 24%, iron by 27%, sodium by 49%, and copper by 76%. They are huge reductions. So you can be eating tons of vegetables, which I still encourage you to do, but the mineral and nutritional status that you're getting from those non-organic vegetables is declining. The soils are becoming more and more depleted from the intensive farming that we put our soils through. So even if you choose not to go organic, we know that our soils are getting very, very depleted from a mineral perspective. And of course, we need our minerals. We know we need calcium for strong bones and teeth. We need magnesium for hundreds of different chemical processes in the body, but they are just as important to help calcium get into bones to create strong bones as well. So mineral depletion is one aspect of it. Now, organic. Is there any evidence that organic fruit and vegetables have a higher nutritional status? When I was doing my studying, we sort of thought, well, that was probably the case, but there was no firm data to show that was the case. And this data didn't come along till after I qualified in 2010. There's been studies looking at all of the published data that's been pulled together. So there's been this big analysis of the data. It was done several years ago. And what has been found that in terms of organic versus non-organic, when we look at our fruit and vegetables, is that organic crops can be up to, it's not all of them, but they can be up to 60% higher in antioxidants. Now, what antioxidants do is they protect our cells from free radical damage. Our cells are going through oxidation all the time. This is what helps create our energy. It's an important process for the body, but it's going to create, as a consequence of that, free radicals. And these free radicals will create damage to our body unless they're paired up with something that makes them safe. And this is where antioxidants come into the frame and come into their own. So antioxidants are hugely important to protect our cells from damage and to keep us healthy. So they do have up to 60% higher levels of antioxidants compared to non-organic crops. And that's equivalent to eating between 1 to 2 extra portions of fruit and vegetables a day. So if you're struggling to get your 5 a day, I often talk about eating 10 a day. If you're struggling to get anywhere close to some of those numbers, then eating organic is going to help you achieve those numbers from an antioxidant point of view, not from a fibre point of view, but from an antioxidant perspective. And then we need to look at heavy metals. So there are heavy metals. Some of these heavy metals may be coming from the use of chemicals that have been sprayed on the crops. It may be coming from what's in the soil, but the amount of heavy metals is higher in non-organic crops compared to organic. One of the things I've got here is to do with the heavy metal called cadmium, and cadmium is 50% lower in organic crops compared to others. There was no significant difference with regards to arsenic in lead. We know rice contains arsenic. So there was no difference in other heavy metals, but there was a 50% lower level of cadmium, which is a heavy metal. Again, do I want heavy metals in my body? No, heavy metals get trapped in our fat cells. Very, very difficult to get heavy metals out of the body, to excrete them and get them out of the body once they're there. So that to me is very, very important. I mentioned about pesticides. Conventional fruit, non-organic fruit, has 75% more pesticides. Why should organic fruit have any pesticide residue at all? There's a view that it may be contamination, some of the spray that could be in the air compared to non-organic crops. So non-organic is 75% more pesticides. Vegetables have 32% more pesticides. So just on fruit and vegetables, we've got information about pesticide levels of chemicals, we've got heavy metal toxicity, and we've got levels of antioxidants being much higher. Antioxidants are things like your vitamin C, your vitamin E, your selenium, and your zinc. So they are 4 very important antioxidants that we find, and vitamin A, that we find in our fruit and vegetables. So what about other foods that we eat? What about milk and dairy? I'm not a huge consumer of milk and dairy products myself. I don't completely exclude them from my diet. I'm not a huge consumer of them. However, I do like a bit of milk in my coffee. I drink a couple of cups of coffee every day. I do like a cappuccino, so I'm just putting it out there. I'm very human in that respect. But I do buy organic milk. So that's really, really important to me, to have organic milk. And when it comes to meat, personally, I only eat chicken. Other members of my family will eat beef and lamb. But to me, it's really important to be choosing organic meat as well. And I'll give you some of the reasons for this. Again, it goes back to when I was in my training, and I've looked at some of the latest information on this, but I was always concerned about antibiotic use in animals. And antibiotic use is going to be higher in non-organic animals than with organic animals. I'm not sure about the level of antibiotic use. Now, I do know that in the UK, welfare on animals is at extremely high levels. And I've also read that antibiotic use is declining in non-organic animals, which is a great thing to read. However, it is still pretty high. Do I want to be eating meat, chicken, and do I want to have any milk that's got any residue of antibiotics in there? No, I don't. I don't want to take antibiotics myself. Antibiotics are going to upset my gut bacteria. I don't want to have a drip feed of potential, but very small potential antibiotics that may be any sort of residue that may be left in milk or animals. No, I don't want that. So for an incredibly long period of time, I have always chosen to drink organic milk. I've always chosen to eat organic meat. That's not 100% of the time if I'm out and about, but when I'm at home, that is what I choose to eat. In fact, when I'm out, you'll rarely see me eat meat. I eat fish. I tend to only eat meat when I'm at home, and I know where that meat's come from. So that's one aspect from an animal welfare point of view. And I do know that UK farm standards are significantly higher. I really would not want to be eating American meat at all. Let's not go there, and let's not think about what's going to happen when we leave Brexit and any sort of trade negotiations with the US. Let's just focus on what's available here in the UK at the moment. So what about from a nutritional point of view? Well, organic meat, sorry, somebody was just trying to call me. Organic milk has high levels of these essential fatty acids, the omega-3s, the particular essential fatty acids that I talk about, EPA and DHA. 60%, sorry, somebody keeps trying to call me. 60% more of these fatty acids in organic milk compared to non-organic milk. We do not get nearly enough of our omega-3 and these essential fatty acids in our diet. If you do not eat oily fish, you're really going to have very low levels of these absolutely essential, and they're called essential fats because our body can't make them, and we have to get them from our diet. So you will get some from organic milk, 60% more. Also more vitamin E and more iron in organic milk. It was found that were lower levels of selenium and lower levels of iodine, but I understand that in organic, it's been decided organic dairy will supplement and is supplementing iodine with organic milk. So that's important from the thyroid health point of view. The same with the organic meats from looking at the essential fatty acids, 47% high levels of these essential fatty acids like omega-3s. Usually organic meat is more likely to be grass-fed, and of course organic grass has high levels of these essential omega-3s. And when it comes to the ratios, you may hear about omega-6 and you may hear about omega-3, and you may think they're just of equal importance. They are both important. However, the ratio between omega-6 to omega-3 these days tends to be in people's diets about 20:1, when it should be more like 1:1. So our ratio is very much geared towards omega-6, and we need far more intake of omega-3 to balance that out. And when we've got more omega-3s, that helps the body be in a better position to fight inflammation, so that they have an anti-inflammatory effect in the body. So that's really, really important. So that's looking at some of the nutritional status between our fruit, non-organic and organic fruit, vegetables, meat and dairy. And I've looked a bit about the depleted soils and the minerals. So I said I'd choose organic meat and I'll choose organic dairy. But what about with fruit and vegetables? Because I'm encouraging people to eat more and more of these all the time. And I do understand that it's an expense for people. It gets very, very expensive. So I spoke a few weeks ago in August, and you might have missed it, and I have put it into the files section at the top of my group. You'll see files and you'll find it there. And there's a report called the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. And I use this bit as my Bible. I mention this a lot to my clients when they're looking at how to choose foods more healthily and what to choose. But this has come from the Environmental Working Group, which is American, but I think it's something, it's a good basis to use. And it looks at those that have been sprayed the most, has got the most chemical residue, and those that have got the least chemical residue. So if I mentioned at the start, it's interesting that actually organic bananas increase in sales, and a lot of sales of organic bananas. Would I bother buying an organic banana? Probably not. It's got you peel bananas, so they're not going to have any sprayed residue on them because you're going to peel them. So would I choose to buy organic? Probably that's not going to be my first thought at all. So the top 12 here, the Dirty Dozen, in terms of really highly sprayed, a lot of chemical residue, in the order of worst to better is strawberries, spinach, kale, nectarines, apples, grapes, peaches, cherries, pears, tomatoes, celery, and potatoes. So you think about how many of those you eat on a regular basis, and then decide, should I switch to organic for those things that are staple part of my diet, and I can see here that they have a lot of chemical residue. Is that going to be the most sensible way for me to invest in organic? I would say yes. So if you eat a lot of apples or grapes and tomatoes and potatoes, spinach or kale, should you buy organic? My answer would be yes, that would be a wise investment. But when I look at the clean ones, and these are the cleanest, so we've got avocados. Again, they've got skin, haven't they? We don't eat the skin, we take it off. So some of these may surprise you actually. I won't read the Clean 15 out, all of them. I'll pick out some of the more common ones. Onions, really, really good. Frozen peas, good. Cauliflower, broccoli, mushrooms, cabbage, they're all very, very good. They're very, very clean. They don't need a lot of spraying to keep the bugs off them. So that's great news. If they don't need spraying a lot, you know, and you eat a lot of this, so don't think about buying organic if you're going to buy broccoli and cabbage and mushrooms and cauliflower, peas and onions, pineapple, avocados. Don't invest your money in organic on those ones because they are clean. They are in this list, the EWG, the Environmental Working Group's 2020 Clean 15. So that's where I would be choosing either to spend organic or not to spend organic. And just to sum up here is, I've mentioned about chemical load and on the liver. I've talked about the nutritional content. But, you know, from another perspective, from our health overall, it has been shown that when we have a higher level of organic foods in our diets, there are less allergies. It helps with disease prevention, and you're less exposed, maybe at a lower risk for certain levels of cancer. So it's all about weighing up risk and benefit at the end of the day and looking at your financial ability to choose organic. So I hope that's given you information to be able to take those steps towards choosing your foods wisely. Thank you for your time. Hope this has been another useful week for you and look forward to seeing you again next week.